give a warm welcome to Jefferson.
Let's do it. What was your go-to childhood TV show / film?
It was probably Batman the animated series.
A real spiritual predecessor to American fiction in my mind is this film called Hollywood Shuffle. Robert Townsend said, "I'm very proud of you." Brought a tear to my eye. It just sort of felt like a full circle moment.
I went back like a week later and ordered that. And like to this day, that shit is like the best sandwich I ever had in my life.
You're listening to PROX.
If the question is like, how do I get where you are? It's like, then you shouldn't be doing this. If the end goal is to be like win an Oscar, right? Like you need to find value in the work itself. You need to find meaning in just the making of stuff, even if it doesn't become successful, even if you don't end up making a bunch of money off of it. Like you just need to find value in that pursuit.
You're listening to In Proximity. Writer-director Cord Jefferson met our founder, Ryan Coogler, last year at a film festival screening of Cord's directorial debut, American Fiction, the satirical comedy starring Jeffrey Wright and based on the novel Erasure by Percival Everett, premiered at Toronto International Film Festival about a year ago, before it went on to win several awards, including the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. Before his peers on the Oscar stage, Cord implored the industry to take more creative risks. He said, instead of making one $200 million movie, try making 20 $10 million movies, or 54 $54 million movies. It was an incredible speech. And just weeks after, Cord and Ryan met over a video call to talk about the movies they've made as directors. While their budgets were varied, the lessons they learned were very much the same. In this conversation, Cord shares his unique career path, insights from the set of American Fiction, what Cord and Ryan are working on next, including tidbits from Ryan's next movie, which he was preparing to shoot during this conversation, and finally, why a love of the process, not awards, is the key to success in this business. Heads up, as part of our new season, we're kicking off every episode with a fun new icebreaker segment called Get Real. That's Get REEL, like a film reel. Get it? It's where our guests answer surprise questions hidden in film canister reels. We filmed most of them on videos, so you can check them out on our social media. We are at Proximity Media on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.
Hey, this is Ryan Coogler with Proximity Media. I want to give a warm welcome to Cord Jefferson, incredible filmmaker, writer, director, most recently of American Fiction. Cord, you want to say what's up, bro?
Yes. Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
Yeah, and it's our second time sitting down like in an interview style conversation, bro.
Yeah,
I'm starting to feel like I'm a journalist now. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate it. I mean, as you said, you interviewed me first for Interview Magazine where we kind of talked to each other. And the thing that I told you there was that I interviewed you a decade before that interview for Fruitvale, which is crazy. So this is like a full circle moment again.
Yeah, it's pretty great, man. It's pretty great. Thank you for pulling up on our show, man. It means a lot to us. And what we do now is on this season is a Get Real segment. I haven't seen these questions, so I'm usually, even more surprised than the guests are.
Ooh. What was your go-to childhood TV show / film? Oh man, I had so many. Do you have a specific one that was on repeat for you?
I watched a lot of them, man. I would say like I could think of one like that was like my go-to for any era. It was probably Batman the animated series.
Yeah.
I remember watching the pilot. I remember always loving it, and then when I got older, I would go back to it when they put it out on like a DVD box. I bought it when I was in college playing football. I would watch them. Couldn't believe how good they still were. Yeah, so that'd be my pick. But what's yours, bro?
Mine would probably be The Simpsons. It was the first thing that I can remember finding that my parents didn't like. Your first exposure to art when you're a kid is stuff that your parents give you, and so my parents fed me a lot of the stuff that they were really into. But The Simpsons, I sort of remember getting into, probably when I was 8 or 9, and my parents didn't like it. So I felt like I found something that was mine alone. It was really maligned when it first came out by like parents groups who were mad that Bart was saying like "eat my shorts" and was kind of like rude and irreverent, and people thought that it was this really gross and crass show. But when you watched it, it was Homer like always made the right choice in the end. Like he always made the right choice for his family, for his children. Everybody always did the right thing. It was actually like it's a show pretty steeped in like good morality, and I think that so much of my sense of humor comes from just binge watching The Simpsons over and over and over.
That's amazing, man. So the second one is favorite hometown restaurant or meal. You gotta answer for this one, Court.
This one's easy. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, and I don't know what Oakland was like, but we had this. Did you ever see the Peach Pit on Beverly Hills, the 90210?
No, I didn't. I never seen that show. I never seen that show.
Okay, so I'm a little bit older than you, I think. So Beverly Hills 90210, there was like a hangout called the Peach Pit, and it's like where all the kids went to hang out. And so our version of the Peach Pit in Tucson was this place called Nico's Taco Shop, and it was like, I don't know if it was open 24 hours or if it was just open until like 6 a.m. But it was just the place that my friends and I would always end up, like after parties or after games, or just sort of, we had a half an hour for lunch. So we'd sometimes try to make it there in our cars and back in time, which was always cutting it close. But Nico's Taco Shop, and specifically, I don't eat meat anymore, but when I ate meat, it was the grilled chicken burrito with extra lettuce and extra sour cream, which is, oh my God. The one that we used to hang out at doesn't exist anymore, but there's like several locations throughout Tucson. Shout out to Nico's.
That's amazing. Yeah, for me, we had, the Bay is a trip, bro, because it's like not a lot of, specifically in Oakland, it's like not a lot of chain places. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like it's kind of like an anti-establishment place. It's crazy that we had our sports teams as long as we had them.
Yeah,
and a lot of heartbreak when I think about this, because I've been there my whole life.
Yeah,
a lot of the places that I were frequent, a lot of them are gone now.
Of course.
But we had a spot that sounds like Nico's. It's called Nations.
Yeah,
and it's a few of them. Basically throughout the Bay Area, specifically like the East Bay.
Yeah.
Your Oakland, your Berkeley, your Richmond. It's like a diner.
See, that sounds great.
They used to serve a grilled cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
When you would order the grilled cheese sandwich, they would ask, "Do you want that with everything?" And I used to think that was like a ridiculous question. I'm like, man, that's crazy. Why are you asking if I want everything on a grilled cheese sandwich? I just want I want the bread and cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a normal human being. And one day, I was with somebody who wasn't from there. They ordered a grilled cheese. They said, "Hey, do you want everything on it?" They said, "Yeah, give it to me." So I was like, yeah, that's a crazy thought. And then I got it, and it was a grilled cheese sandwich, and it had like mayonnaise and like big ass onions and tomatoes. And it was falling off.
It's probably so good.
Yo, bro, it looked fire. I was looking. I'm like, man. I was like, next time I come back, I'm gonna order that. So I went back like a week later and ordered that. And like to this day, that shit is like the best sandwich I ever had in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you ever in the Bay, like you go to Nation,
I'm 100% trying it out. Next time
order that, bro. It's like outlandish.
I love that. No, it sounds fantastic.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, most memorable interaction with an audience member who saw your film. Ooh, that's a good one. Well, I will say, firstly, a real spiritual predecessor to American fiction in my mind is this film called Hollywood Shuffle, which I loved, meant a lot to me when I was a young man. And so I got to, over the course of promoting the movie, got to do a screening with Robert Townsend, who sort of is just a hero of mine. And Robert, the first time we met, he gave me a big hug and a kiss on the cheek, and he said, "I'm very proud of you." He said, "I love your movie and I love you." And it was sort of brought a tear to my eye. It still does sometimes when I think about it. It just sort of felt like a full circle moment. That's been the nicest part of it all. Like, yeah, I love everybody seeing the movie, but it's just, there's something special about meeting your heroes along the way. Did you feel that same way when you first started putting your work out there?
Yeah, big time, man. Yeah. I think for me, when I really think about it, bro, it was probably like when I was in film school, bro. We had to make these short films within the first few weeks of getting there. And it was this woman who was in class with me. She was a critical studies major. Her name is Leah Aldridge. I don't know where Leah is now, man. You know, she was like a professor already. She was like getting like her critical studies master's or something. And they put her in this class, you know, and she had like a kid that was probably like not much younger than I was. It was really smart, really fun to be around. You know, it kind of reminded me of my family, like some of my aunts and some of my older cousins. And we had to show like the first thing we were working on.
Yeah.
I remember I went last in our presentations because I was really nervous.
Mm-hmm.
I was like hustling up to finish it. She was sitting next to me in class, and when it went off, she hit me. You know what I mean? Like as older black women will do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? like she, you know, she hit me and she kind of gave me this look.
Yeah.
That was like without words. It was like, hey kid, you got something. You know what I'm saying? Like you surprised me.
Yeah.
Well, my recollection of our initial meeting was when we met at the Mill Valley Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And I just heard the most amazing things about your movie coming out of Toronto. So now I was like, yo, I gotta go see this movie when it's at Mill Valley. And you know, we met there, caught up a little bit, but shit, like you know, the movie blew me away in many ways. And a big thing, you know, that I'm curious about, because a lot of times that first feature film feels like a just ginormous bet, both on yourself, but then because movies are expensive and they require a lot of capital and also energy, time, resources, attention, you find yourself in a position where you have to not only bet on yourself, but kind of try to lobby people to bet on you as well. You know, when was the first time somebody took a chance on you? You know, I got to imagine it was before even American Fiction.
So I moved to LA right after college in 2004. And it was this crazy feeling of living in this city. It was kind of like living sort of like just outside the walls of like Wakanda, right? I'll sort of like put it in that, or just living right outside the walls of like Oz, right? It's like this, you know, that something magical is going on, sort of like just on the other side of this wall, but like you don't know how to get in. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm in the center of the universe for film and television, but I didn't know anybody who worked in that. All my friends were musicians or architects or therapists, you know, and I was a journalist for about 8 or 9 years right out of college and did that for a while. And then one day, this guy named Mike O'Malley, who's a writer and an actor and a director as well. When I was a kid, he used to host this game show called Guts on Nickelodeon that I was obsessed with. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Love that show.
So Mike just reached out to me one day in 2014, and he said, hey, I've read some of your journalism. I think it's good. And I would like you to come be a staff writer in my writer's room for this TV show that I'm creating called Survivor's Remorse. And Survivor's Remorse was based loosely on the life of LeBron James. LeBron was one of the executive producers of it. So it's hard to sort of go back in your life and find the sort of like places that your life really changed. But that was like the first hard right turn in my life where I can remember like somebody saying like, I'm going to sort of like grab you from this one thing and put you in this world that you have no experience in and sort of see if you can sink or swim. And I remember him saying, maybe you'll hate it. Maybe you won't be good at it. Maybe we won't get along. And he's like, but we'll see, you know, but maybe you'll love it. And maybe this will be great. And I told him like that man literally changed my life. I've told him this many times and he's always humble and says like, no, you did it on your own. But I think that anybody who has success, it always annoys me when anybody with like success doesn't acknowledge the role that luck has played in their success. Because like, yes, I worked really hard. I put in my time and improved myself and got better. But I was also very lucky. I was also very lucky that this guy reached out to me of all people and said, do you want to do this? I just feel very fortunate that was the first big. And then, you know, once I got into TV, then I was able to get in film. But that was the first real big breakthrough for me.
Man, describe it to me, man. Like what was it like?
I went in there and I was because I had to quit my old job too. So the day job that I had, I was still a journalist. And I had to quit that job.
Where were you at?
I was working at this website called Gawker. I was the West Coast editor of Gawker from 2012 to 2014. And they the survivor's remorse room was only going to be 13 weeks. That was all they could guarantee me. And I was going to be making less money than I was making at my day job. So I was sort of like taking a pay cut, and it was only going to be 13 weeks of work with no guarantee for anything to come after that. And my day job was like, sorry, you'll have to quit because we'll need to fill your role by then. And so it was a leap for me, because all of a sudden it was like, take a pay cut, and after 13 weeks, you'll have lost the job that you had, and there's no guarantee of getting a second TV job. So it's sort of like this leap of faith.
How did you make the decision, bro? Like once you realized that you were going to have to give up something that, it sounds like you worked a lot of years to build.
Yeah, man, I was 32. I was 32 years old by then. I'd been out of college for a decade. I was sort of had this footing. I think that just for me, I'm a very sort of nervous, anxious person. I have a lot of fear, but probably the quality that has been most important for me so far in my life is my ability to overcome that fear.
And do you remember that first day at work on Survivor's Remorse? Like, do you remember walking in the
I almost
in
passed
the writer's
out.
room?
Yeah, I almost literally almost passed out. I was so nervous.
So you saw spots, bro? When? Like in the room or on your way to work?
I was sitting there. I was sitting there. Mike was discussing what he wanted the show to be, and I was sitting there, and I started sort of like feeling like I was like my vision was going black. I was like, you can't pass out. I was like, you can't pass out on your first day.
Let me ask you this, bro. If somebody was looking at you, would they would have known, or are you pretty good at hiding it?
No, I'm very good at hiding. I've always been very good at hiding what's going on inside. That has never been a problem for me. Probably too good. If you ask my therapist, I've been too good at hiding what's inside. And so I was always able to keep a straight face, but yeah, inside I was like, if you pass out on your first day, man, you're never going to hear the end of this. And so I was like, you just got to stay upright. And so I just forced myself to stay upright, and I did some breathing.
I'm trying to imagine everybody going around the room where it is all of a sudden, boom. You know what I'm saying?
I walked in there incredibly terrified, but the thing that put me at ease immediately was everybody was just so nice. Everybody, like to a person, like all the other writers were so eager to help me learn. Mike was eager to help me learn. It was like people weren't just tolerant of my inexperience, like they were almost excited by my inexperience, enthusiastic about helping somebody learn and get into this industry. And I think that is a response to sort of inexperience that is not constant. Like there's certainly people who aren't like that in this industry, but I've found that more often than not, like the people that you want to work with and the people you want to stay with are people who are like really enthusiastic about like helping somebody tell their story.
And that's beautiful, man. Like the value of kindness.
Oh God, yeah.
I think is like so it's just not talked about enough, especially in an industry like ours that's known for being extremely cutthroat. Because you walked into a kind writer's room, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that probably set us on a path to get American fiction when we got it. You know what I'm saying?
It was the best case scenario for the first job.
I think Ludwig might have done the music for it too.
He did?
Yeah, Ludwig did do it, bro.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's two people on that show I was like directly connected with. Like, that's pretty crazy, man.
Yeah, man, it feels nuts. I mean, because it feels fake. Like I just feel like so much of this stuff, it still feels surreal. It feels surreal to me to like go to like the Warner Brothers lot or to go to like the Paramount lot. It feels crazy for me still. And I'm kind of glad about that. I don't ever want to become this jaded guy who doesn't sort of like realize how fortunate I am to be doing this stuff and how, what a privilege to do our jobs. And so I think that just it felt like, my God, I'm standing in here with the guy who used to host Guts. Like I was obsessed with him when I was a kid. And now it's like I'm sitting here in front of him and working for him. It felt nuts. And so I don't pass out anymore, but I also try to not lose that sense of wonder and joy at it all.
talk to me about that first day on the set of American Fiction, day one.
Almost passed out again. That's not a joke.
So describe it to me, man. What scene was it? Like, what scene did y'all shoot day one, bro?
We shot an exterior where we just shot Monk walking across this college campus, and we ended up not using it. And then the second thing we shot was the classroom scene, which became the first scene in the film. And that went well. But then we shot 2 other things. Like 3 of the 4 scenes we shot on day one got cut out of the movie. It tells you sort of like I was still learning. I was still getting, Jeffrey was still sort of like finding the character. Jeffrey and I were still finding our rapport. And the real sort of difficulty for me was like, I was like, who am I to tell Jeffrey Wright what to do? That was that was how I felt. You know, I was like, this guy is a legend. Like this dude was in Angels in America on Broadway. You know, this dude has worked with Mike Nichols. This dude has won a Tony. This dude was Basquiat. Like this dude's in Batman and 007. Like he's literally in the biggest movies and TV shows in the world. This is a dude who has worked with the best of the best for his entire career. And so I was like, man, who am I to go in there and sort of like tell Jeffrey Wright what to do? And then it was like, you know, we were like halfway through the day and one of the producers came up to me and he was like, look, I know that you think that you are doing Jeffrey a service by just sort of like letting him do what he wants to do. But he was like, he wants to collaborate. He was like, he wants you to go in there and talk to him after takes and sort of like make adjustments and discuss the character and discuss the scene. He was like, this is a collaborative environment. And like, I know you think that you're honoring and respecting him by not sort of getting in there all the time. And he's like, but you got to get in there. Like you got to get in there and talk, and you got to get in there and sort of take control of things. And so once he said that, and I started talking to Jeffrey, you realize like, oh, all this is collaboration. Like all a good film set is like, it's just creative problem solving with a group of individuals. It's like the greatest, most expensive group project ever, right? It's like that's what it is. It's like you need to be able to get in there and work together. And not only do you need to, it's sort of it makes everything better. I think that you can tell now when I watch stuff, you can see when the people assembled weren't making the same movie, and sort of like the people who came together to make this were on different pages the whole time.
Right. And who was the producer that came up to you and said that?
His name was Nikos Karamigios. This was his like first film, like not assisting somebody else. There was 2 guys on the ground every day. One's Ben Leclerc and one's Nikos Karamigios. They're both from T Street. But Nikos was Ron Bergman's assistant for a long time. So he'd work on the Knives Outs, but sort of like underneath Ram. This was the first thing that he was doing that was just kind of
on his own.
Yeah. So, but Ben's been doing it for a long time. Ben's been an independent film producer for a while. Those guys were just great. They're just truly, you know, there's always that joke in this industry about like, what do producers do? But I saw those guys and it's like, the answer is like, they do everything, you know, if like, especially an independent film, like they do everything.
How many days did you guys shoot?
26.
Wow.
Yeah.
26 days.
Yeah.
And I asked do you remember what your last setup was?
Yeah. So you remember in the movie when it's the rom-com ending and he runs out of the building and he runs underneath those sort of like lights on the marquee and he runs past those sort of like those posters that are up, and it's like so that was the last one. We were shooting it in it was downtown Boston. It was the last of the night, and we had to get that shot because I think there was a Michael Jackson musical playing at this theater right next to where we were shooting. And we had to shoot before the musical let out because it was going to let out like 3,000 people were going to come out and stream into the street. And like, we got it right before it let out. And I remember there's, you know, those posters on the wall that say fuck. And there's this, this woman comes out of the theater and she looks and she goes, "It says fuck. It must be some kind of protest." And she just
oh man, somebody from there just watched Michael Jackson.
Yeah, somebody
That's
from
great.
the Michael says fuck. It must be a protest.
That's great, bro.
And it was what was really nice is we had there was like some film school there, or maybe like film students who were like at a college there. But anyway, they were like watching the entire thing too. So we finished there, and like some film students came over, started talking to Jeffrey. Jeffrey popped this bottle of champagne that a friend had sent me. It was really lovely.
Wow. That's amazing, man.
It was
What
fun.
that feel like? Like knowing you had wrapped your movie.
It felt insane, you know. It felt so. I just felt so relieved because I was told, you know, the way that the industry's been, like nothing is guaranteed. Like I've had friends who have started shooting their movies, and then it's like 2 weeks into it, they're like, actually, we're not doing this anymore. It's over. And it's like, what? I have a friend who was shooting a TV show. She was writing on a TV show, and they were shooting the last episode of the series, and the network called them and was like, actually, we're not gonna air this series, and we're killing it. And they were shooting the last episode, you know, of like a 10 episode series, and they were like, yeah, we're done with this.
Heartbreaking.
I know, man. And so to me, there was like every day I was like, I'm not going to believe that it's actually done until we're done, you know, because I think that we've all seen projects fall apart at like various stages of coming together. And so to me, just making it to the end without having a COVID shutdown ever, without having sort of like any scheduling issues with the actors, like just the fact that we were able to do that in 26 days in that limited amount of time was, I mean, I just felt over the moon that we were able to do it. You know, I knew that there was a lot of work ahead with post, but
Right.
just getting over that hurdle was, man, it felt like flying. It felt like, my God, again, just so surreal. I couldn't believe it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Corey. Was this movie your first time directing anything?
Yeah, I'd never directed anything before this.
So when did you know that you had it? Like, when did you know to move on?
Well, generally because we could only do like 3 or 4 takes max because we didn't have time. So it was just
Time-wise.
So it was just like when we were doing that first shot, there was these birds that I really wanted to get the birds in the shot. And I was like, Jeffrey actually came up to me because I was like, I want to get the birds like flying right when you walk past. And Jeffrey was like, have somebody throw a pebble toward the birds right when I'm walking past. And I was like, that's a great idea. And so we did that, and it worked perfectly. And the birds sort of like soared right past his head right when he was white. It was so perfect. And then we ended up cutting it. So,
Yeah, I mean,
but I think that
but you got what you wanted.
Yeah, we got what we wanted. But once I got into it more, and once Nikos had told me like get in there, then I started to trust my own creative instincts and my own taste more. And I was like, oh yeah, get in there and just say like, we need to hit this joke a little bit more. Like this line reading is a little off. Here's what I think sort of like Monk is thinking in this moment. Once I started to feel more comfortable with that, then it was like, then I felt comfortable getting it in like, 4 takes. I feel really lucky that we got the cast we got because everybody was just such a pro and came in and knocked it out and was really prepared, and they worked really well together. It was, I was very lucky in that way.
So Corey, man, congratulations.
Thank you.
On all of the praise, man.
Thank
The,
you.
the Oscar for Adapted Screenplay, and just in every way that you can track the success of that movie, it has been just that. But for me, the most important metric is just that people love it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And congrats on that,
Thank
man. And this is, here comes like the dreaded question, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you going about deciding what's next for yourself? Like, what's been your process?
That's a great question. So it sort of goes back to a thing that I was saying earlier about fear, in that making this movie and directing was a real scary thing for me. Sort of like anytime I'm able to move through that fear, there's the best things in my life have always been on the other side of that terror. And for me, I want to do something that scares me again. So the 2 movies that I'm working on right now, one of them is an erotic thriller, and the second one is a Western, kind of a contemporary noirish Western. And both of them have some similar themes to American fiction, but just through like a totally different lens. And sort of like both of them are much more, there's a lot more action. It's like, car chases, shootouts, like things like that I am have never done before, and things that I'm interested in. That'll be next on the film front, and I'm writing this legal thriller show with John Wells from ER and West Wing fame for Scarlett Johansson to star in.
That's amazing.
Because I have an overall deal at Warner Brothers for television, and so I really want to get better at visual storytelling. That's another thing that I've been thinking about. Is like I think that American Fiction is a very talky movie, and that's because with my writing background, I feel very comfortable in the world of language. I feel less comfortable in the sort of like world of just visual, purely visual. I've been watching a lot of Jonathan Glazer movies. I think that what he does with just sort of like letting just the camera speak and the actors without saying a word speak is truly inspiring. I've been watching a lot of Denis Villeneuve. I'd never seen Sicario until early last year, and I was like, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do a cowboy movie. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, so I'm from the American Southwest, and I was watching Sicario, and I was just like, man, the American Southwest is so cinematic. It's so beautiful. It's like it looks incredible. It doesn't look like anywhere else. And also on top of that, the movie that I'm writing centers Black characters, and it's like you don't really see Black characters in the American Southwest. It's not really. It's not really a place that people tell Black stories, despite the fact that there are Black people there. And
we there.
Yeah, exactly, man. I know. It's not a lot of us, but we are there.
Have you seen Incendie?
No.
It's my favorite film of Denise.
Really? I'll check it out.
It's heavy. It's emotionally heavy.
Really?
But but really, really strong, bro.
That's your favorite of his?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna watch it today. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
How about you? What are you thinking about for your next project?
Well, I'm working on it, and it's very different from anything I've done before.
And does that scare you?
Yes, but it's the good fear. It's the good fear that you're talking about.
Yeah,
a lot on the line with this. I would say, I feel myself getting older, not in a mortality way, but in a way of like just being limber. You know what I'm saying? Kids getting older, parents getting older. I'm starting to feel that feeling of me being able to just run around, make things wherever, whenever. Maybe that stage of my life is kind of going away.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, but feeling like, I'm making something like that I would be satisfied if I never made anything else again.
Interesting.
I've been working with incredible co-writers the last few projects, and this was on my own, working with my company, Proximity, and, as producers on this thing. And I'm really, really excited working with Mike. He's pretty far out of his comfort zone, which is exciting. Like, it's a role unlike anything he's done before.
I love that. Do you feel, having had the success that you've had and the career that you've had at this point in your life, because you're still a very young man, do you feel at this point that you are just making work to please yourself? Do you feel like, I don't need to prove that I can get box office, I don't need to prove that I can get good reviews? Like, you've done that. So do you find yourself at a point in your career where it's like, I'm just making stuff to challenge myself and to please myself? Or do you still feel the need to sort of like get those external things as well?
Man, that's a great question, bro. Even when I was first starting, how I always looked at it was like, there's only one of those things I can control. Like if you were to break it down in like your own self, and then in the critical benchmarks and then audience benchmarks, which I think correlate to box office. Every time you make something, you want to satisfy all those things, right? But there's only one of those things that you truly know. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you like, what you want at that time. The other things are kind of moving targets. There's no way to really know, especially because movies take so long. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might say, oh yeah, here's the moment for this. And by the time it comes out, it's a different world out there. You know what I mean? And so I'm always, each time, I'm trying to make something for myself that works for myself. But I do know that I do have popular tastes. Most things that do well critically, I generally like those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, most things that do well business wise, like if I check it out, I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. Yeah. So you ask, like, do I feel like I have anything left to prove? Man, I always do, bro. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I got something to prove every day. Just being a member of Black culture. Yeah. I think we're going to have a permanent chip on our shoulder, right? Because society spent so much time, specifically through the film and television medium, saying both artistically and and through business analysis, hey, it doesn't work.
Absolutely.
It's been so many years of that. So I think that shit for me will never leave.
Absolutely.
You know, no matter what the film does. And I feel connected to that. I feel connected to that community.
Yeah.
So each time one of us does well, you know, it feels like all of us did. You know, all of us did well. Each time one of us knocks a door down, you know, that's a big part of the reason why I pulled up to Mill Valley. I said, shit, man, black man just went to Toronto. Let me see if I can touch him.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? Telling him, man, good job, man. We here for you. And I'm knowing I got that excitement, man. I think this film is gonna work for me, even before I see it. I read the synopsis. Oh yeah, man. I think I'm gonna enjoy myself. That's what I'm doing it for.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't imagine that's ever gonna change for me when I sit down to make something.
I feel the same way. Yeah. I'm always gonna have that chip on my shoulder. But I think that is part of what helps keep me motivated. Because I feel like, as you said, it's so hard. Making things is so hard. It's such a hard thing to do. It takes so long. It takes so many resources. It takes so many levels of bureaucracy to say yes to you. Yeah. You're like, why would I ever do this again? This takes years of my life. Yeah. It's like, why don't I just go do something else? That's sort of like path of less resistance. And so, but yeah, I think that is one of the things that I think helps me say like, okay, I want to get up and do it again, despite the fact that it's so hard.
And let me ask, bro, like for folks at home, man, like and the people who listen to this, they tend to be at that stage you were at when you first moved to Los Angeles, you know, or at that stage you were at when you first walked into that writer's room, or they're actively trying to get there, you know, like I found, what were you doing? Like when you weren't in the room, when you weren't on set, how are you sharpening your skills, bro?
I tell everybody like from now on, watching movies and television is like work for you. Like, it's like you need to start being like an active viewer. So if that means you want to just go in and sort of like watch Dune 2 and let it wash over you the first time and not think about anything, then that's fine. But then you should go rewatch Dune 2 and start thinking about the ways in which it was constructed and sort of like the decisions that were made and stuff like that. Like that, people ask me like, do you get the same joy out of watching things that you used to? And it's like, no, I don't. But there's like a different kind of joy because now my mind's working in different ways, wondering like, oh, this is an interesting choice and that's an interesting shot. So I was doing that. But secondly, I was always writing that, you know, my first job was I worked at a used clothing store called Buffalo Exchange, actually, right out of college. Moved to LA and had no idea what I wanted to do. And then my second job was I was a communications coordinator at this small nonprofit in Venice Beach. But every day that I would come home, every single day that I would come home from those jobs, I would sit down and write. It was my passion, you know, and I never knew how I was going to make it as a writer, but I don't even love to write. Writing's hard for me, but it's just something that I had to do. And I understand that it's like easy to say from this position, right? Like it's easy to say this once you've been able to make a movie and once you've had some success. But I tell people like, if you can't find purpose within the creation, you shouldn't pursue this career, right? Like it's like there's people who say like, how do I get to where you're at? And the thing that I tell them is like, you need to sort of like be interested in doing the thing, even if you never get to where I'm at. If the question is like, how do I get where you are? It's like, then you shouldn't be doing this. If the end goal is to be like win an Oscar, right? Like you need to find value in the work itself. You need to find meaning in just the making of stuff, even if it doesn't become successful, even if you don't end up making a bunch of money off of it. Like you just need to find value in that pursuit. That's something else that I tell young people too, is like artists are not athletes. Yeah. Like as long as you have your brain and you're able to articulate your ideas, you can be an artist. And that means that your art is only going to get better because you're going to read more, you're going to watch more films, you're going to learn more about the world, you're going to go through new experiences yourself. All that stuff is going to be additive to your craft, and you're just going to get better and smarter and wiser, and you're going to build and build and build. And so, to me, I say like, just take your time too. Like I'm 42, man, and I just made my first movie. There's time. Give yourself some grace and just find beauty and find joy and find find value in just like the making of the stuff. Otherwise, you're going to be very disappointed, I think.
Yeah, a love of the process.
Exactly.
Like finding satisfaction in the doing of the thing.
Exactly. Like say Fruitvale hadn't popped off and you'd never gotten Black Panther or Creed, like, do you think that you'd still be making films?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no question. Yeah. I don't know what else I'll be doing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly. Me too.
Prox Recs. Prox Recs. This is the section of the interview where we recommend something, like either a song or a movie, book, TV show, quote. It could be absolutely anything.
You go first. I'll follow your lead.
Okay, this is crazy. My recommendation is gonna be the song 400 Degrees. Not the album, but the song 400 Degrees by Juvenile.
Yes.
You know, it's a great song. And you just kind of had me thinking about when you said that artists, we're not up against the same things as athletes are up against. And I think it's like very ironic because I do feel like music and athletics do have like something in common when it comes to Black people, where sometimes I have like a window of success.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Specifically like in hip hop culture, a lot of times there's an expectation that somebody can be hot and then they can fall off. And you'll see that a lot with rap music as well. Juvenile was like one of my favorite artists. He released a video for this song 400 Degrees. He didn't shoot a video for it when it dropped, and this song came out like 25 years ago.
Wow, I didn't know that. Are you serious? I mean, I knew that song. I didn't know he just released a video. That's amazing.
Some of my homies sent me the text of it.
Wow.
You know, and I thought just the act of that was beautiful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it made me think about like what you were saying about how we kind of owe it to ourselves as artists to look at the long game, to not transpose any kind of like conditions on ourselves that aren't there, you know, to not feel like we got to race against the clock to get something done, because that adds so much undue pressure, you know. But if you're a fan of gangster rap, it's good music, man. Go take a listen to that,
man.
To that 400 Degrees song.
Young Juveniles, like his Tiny Desk concert is one of my favorite Tiny Desk concerts in a very long time.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so I will, in keeping with that same spirit of recommending something based on our conversation, it's not going to be a piece of media. It's going to be an activity. And I would say I recommend going out there and doing something that scares you. Maybe it's like cliff diving and you're afraid of heights, and you go to sort of like a place where you jump off of a 20-foot cliff and go into the water. Maybe it's hang gliding. Maybe it is trying a food that you've never tried before because it looks gross to you or you've heard bad things about it. I think that those kinds of little things, taking those kinds of little steps toward like bridging the gap between you and your fears, sometimes it helps you leap in the bigger sort of like places in your life, and sort of like when it comes to those bigger decisions. So try something that scares you. That is a recommendation, even if it's the smallest little thing.
That's awesome, man. Corey, bro, thank you.
No, thank you, man. It's always such an honor. It is. Your friendship and generosity has been one of the greatest parts of putting out American fiction. So thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to talk to you.
Right on, bro.
In Proximity is a production of Proximity Media. If you like the show, help us spread the word. Send a link to your friends and loved ones. Follow, rate, and review In Proximity on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. And follow us on social media. We are at Proximity Media on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. To learn more about us and read episode transcripts, head to proximitymedia.com. In Proximity executive producers are Ryan Coogler, Zinzi Coogler, Sevo Hanyan, and Paula Mardo. That's me. Our theme song and additional music is composed by Ludwig Göransson. Caitlin Plummer is our producer. Celine Mendiola is our associate producer. Our editors are Cedric Wilson and Judy Bell Kamangyan. Ken Nana is our sound designer and mix engineer. Isabella Miller is our production assistant. Alexandria Santana is our social media coordinator. Special thanks to all the other folks who helped make this show possible, the whole Proximity Media team, and to you for listening to In Proximity.
You know, Ruth Carter knows way more about clothes than I can ever.
Absolutely. No.
I was talking to her the other day about 4-finger rings.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, oh yeah, I'm talking to the person who made the Radio Raheem rings. You know,
are you serious? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she designed.
Whoa, the love and hate. That's incredible.
Well, she designed that film. You know what I'm saying?
Like, but I didn't know she said, oh, that's incredible. Whoa.
Yeah, so I'm talking to her about it. She's like, oh yeah, I went down to this shop, you know what I'm saying, in Manhattan, and that's who was doing them all at the time, you know. Wow. Fitted the actor. I thought, you know, we got them flattened out 14 karat, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, and here I am. Bro, I can't make shit.
Yeah. Absolutely.